Caitlin Clark's season didn't collapse because of one unlucky fall. It was a slow burn. Nagging pains, mounting pressure, and a spotlight so bright it left no room for rest. By the middle of the year, the injuries finally caught up, and Clark was sidelined. On paper, that sounds like a simple setback. But the truth is, this wasn't just about a player missing games. It was the moment the entire WNBA was exposed. Because Clark wasn't just another star, she was the league's momentum. The record-breaking ratings, the sold-out arenas, the sponsorships flooding in, all of it was tied to her name. When she went down, it wasn't just her body that broke. The league's illusion of stability shattered with her. And yet, the real story isn't just about an injury list or rehab updates. It's about everything that led up to that breaking point. Jealous rivals, unchecked fouls, and a league that turned a blind eye while drama replaced competition. From the moment Caitlin Clark stepped onto a WNBA court, Angel Reese made it clear she wasn't going to play second fiddle. At first, fans bought into the rivalry. It added excitement, a storyline the league could market. But what was supposed to be competitive fire quickly turned into something uglier. Hard fouls stopped looking like defense and started looking like personal vendettas. Shoves, elbows, and trash talk piled up, and the cameras always seemed to catch Reese smiling afterward, like she was proud of playing the villain. For some fans, it was entertainment. For others, it felt like Clark was being targeted night after night, while the officials just let it slide. And that's where the rivalry crossed a line. Instead of being about who could outplay the other, it became about how much punishment Clark could absorb before she cracked. The theatrics might have made headlines, but they chipped away at the credibility of the league itself. Because fans weren't just asking, who's the better player? They were asking, why does the WNBA look more like a soap opera than a sport? The WNBA had one card to play, and it was Caitlin Clark. Every ticket promotion, every broadcast schedule, every sponsorship pitch, her name was the headline. Networks weren't paying millions for the league, they were paying for Clark's effect. Teams moved games into NBA-sized arenas because they knew she would sell them out. And she did. But that kind of gamble comes with risk. Instead of building a league around multiple stars, they built a house of cards on one. When Clark was sidelined, the collapse was instant. Ticket prices cratered, resale markets flooded, and suddenly arenas that had been electric just weeks earlier felt empty. TV ratings told the same story. Viewership spiked with Clark, then nosedived without her. The league had bet everything on one player, but it forgot the most important part of the gamble, protecting her. And when that failed, the WNBA didn't just lose its biggest attraction, it exposed how fragile its entire growth really was. The moment Clark was ruled out, the ripple effects were immediate. Ticket prices that had been selling for over $200 in June suddenly dropped to less than the cost of parking. Resale sites were flooded with desperate sellers trying to unload seats for games that no longer felt like events. Even All-Star Weekend, hyped for months as Clark's big stage, collapsed into an empty promise. TV networks felt the sting too. Primetime slots that were built around her name turned into ratings duds overnight. Sponsors that jumped in for the Clark effect suddenly found themselves tied to matchups that looked more like scrimmages in empty gyms than national broadcasts. It wasn't just a decline, it was a crash. The kind of crash that exposed how much of the WNBA's momentum rested on one person's shoulders. And as the league scrambled to spin the narrative, Angel Reese made sure all eyes stayed on her, though not in the way anyone expected. When the league needed unity, Angel Reese gave the opposite. Instead of showing empathy for Clark's collapse, she doubled down on herself. In interviews, Reese brushed off the idea that the WNBA's growth was tied to one player, hinting that fans should thank her just as much. But the timing couldn't have been worse. Fans were already furious about Clark being targeted, already questioning whether the league cared about its stars' safety. So when Reese positioned herself as the one carrying women's basketball forward, it came across as petty, even jealous. Social media erupted. Longtime supporters called her comments tone-deaf. Casual fans accused her of celebrating Clark's downfall, and hashtags demanding boycotts spread like wildfire. What could have been her chance to step up as a leader instead turned into another reminder of the envy that had been simmering since day one. Reese gained attention, sure, but not respect. The backlash didn't stay online. It turned into action. Fans who once lined up hours before tip-off were now posting refund screenshots, vowing to leave arenas half-empty as a statement. Boycotts weren't just talk. They were coordinated campaigns aimed directly at the playoffs. Attendance nosedived, resale prices kept sinking, and entire sections of stadiums sat empty during games that were supposed to showcase the league's growth. Sponsors and TV partners noticed too. What was once marketed as a breakthrough season suddenly looked like a cautionary tale. And at the center of it all, Reese became the lightning rod. Her dismissive comments, her rivalry theatrics, and the perception of jealousy only gave frustrated fans a face to attach their anger to. For many, she wasn't the future of the league. She was the reason it was unraveling. But the damage went deeper than one player's reputation. It was about something bigger. Trust. Caitlin Clark was more than a player. She was the engine that finally pushed women's basketball into the mainstream. Her name filled arenas, her highlights led national shows, and her presence brought new fans who had never watched a WNBA game before. Angel Reese, on the other hand, became the symbol of division. Instead of stepping into the opportunity with Clark sidelined, she leaned into the drama, and fans noticed. What should have been a chance to prove she could carry the league turned into proof that without Clark, interest collapsed. That left the WNBA standing at a crossroads. On one side was growth, momentum, and the chance to finally be taken seriously. On the other was pettiness, jealousy, and a league that looked unprepared to protect its biggest stars. Fans were already asking the hard question: if this is how they treat the player who saved the league, why should anyone stick around? The rivalry may have been good for clicks, but the fallout proved it was terrible for trust. And without trust, no league survives.